What's up guys, Coach Shane here with Developing Prospects Baseball, and today we're going to go over 5 common hitting mistakes that we see from all ages, from Little League, Pony, all the way up to high school, college, and even professional baseball players. We're going to go over what these common mistakes are and drills to how to fix these things. Let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so we got common mistake number 1. One of the most common mistakes that I see at all ages is a lot of kids roll the ball over. And what I mean by that is by the time they get to their contact point, Matt, if you want to come over here for me, by the time they get to their contact point, their hands are starting to roll over and that wrist is starting to turn a little bit too early. So by the time they get to contact, that wrist from here, the only thing that it can do is go across. So we're coming in and out of the zone too quick. What I want to see is by the time we get to that ball that this wrist is still up. What that's going to do is by the time we get to that ball, it's going to let us get that extra extension, stay through the ball. So instead of rolling that ball over, for me as a lefty, hitting it to second base, first base, hitting a soft ground ball to right field, I want to stay up the middle and I want to stay away. So for common mistake number 1, here's how a drill to fix it. So what I want the tee set on the outside corner of the plate. What we're going to do is we're going to get into our launch position. Our launch position is going to let us stay back, and from this position we're going to get to our landing point. Our landing point is the position that we get in as a baseball player, a hitter, when we land wherever our stance is, whether we're starting up tall, whether we're starting open, whether we're starting close, we're starting tall, it doesn't matter. But for all of us as hitters, when we go to land, we get into this common stance, this common position in our feet. We're in our legs, we're low. From here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna land, we're gonna get to the ball, and from here, we're gonna work through the ball. So we're trying to work the other way. You do this 5 to 10 swings every day, it's gonna help you stay the other way. All right, so we're on to common mistake number 2. Common mistake number 2 is popping the ball up, letting that back shoulder collapse and not staying through the baseball. A lot of the time when we see kids at these ages, you hear about launch angle nowadays. What the kids don't understand is with launch angle, there's a lot more that comes into it. There's a lot of velo that comes into it. There's a lot of analytics that a lot of us don't actually understand. So I like, for a lot, especially my younger kids, I like to make them work at an angle of line drive to right above, if we had a screen, right above that top part of that screen. So a lot of the things that I see too at this age is by the time they're getting to contact point, their first move when they go to land is that back shoulder gets here and that back knee collapses into the ground. As soon as that happens, we're never actually able to get to that ball, and a lot of times by the time they get to that, their bat is dropping and they're below that baseball. That's why a lot of times a lot of these kids are popping the baseball up. If we hit a hard pop-up, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we want to make sure that we're hitting the baseball clean right into that inside part of that baseball and we're staying through that. So for this drill, we're going to be using a high tee. What I want this tee to be at is I want it to be located right above chest area for a lot of these kids. So it's going to be different for each kid. Some kids are smaller, some guys are taller. Make sure that we're putting this tee right above chest level. And what that's going to do is that's going to put the baseball on the top part of that strike zone for us. We're trying to work the same way we talked about in common mistake number 1, staying through the ball and trying to work up the middle or the other way. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see us get to this to try to stay on top of it and our body end up coming back. If we're coming back, what that's going to do is that's going to end up going back to common mistake number 1. As soon as we go back, those hands roll over too early and we're never actually able to stay through that ball. So we have to make sure during this as well is when we're going to hit that baseball, Coach Matt, if you want to come over here for me, we're trying to hit this inside part of this baseball. So if you guys can see, we got the baseball sitting on that tee. With our bat, we're trying to get to this inside part of this baseball with our barrel, hit this so we can stay through it. What I don't want to see is us to get around it, and what's going to cause is that rollover.
See what you got.
So we have common mistake number 3. What you guys are gonna notice between all 5 of these common mistakes is they all kind of have their relevance. They all are kind of connected. They all have similar things that we do as baseball players, and these common fixes are gonna help all those common 5 mistakes. So for this third common mistake, it's staying through the baseball. At contact point, a lot of guys get to this and they come here. That little extra extension of us getting to that baseball and extending through that baseball is how we get that extra whip, when we get the extra exit velocity, as some of you guys like to say, or that extra carry on that baseball. What we're trying to do in this is we're also trying to get that backspin. The more backspin that we get with our baseball, and what I mean by backspin is when we go backspin, the baseball, we want the baseball doing this. A lot of times if you look at the baseball, when we hit it, if that ball's going down, we're top spinning it, which means we didn't hit it clear. What we want is that backspin. Some of you guys also side this way or side this way, and again, it's because we either got around that baseball or we stayed too far inside of it and we got it off the end of that bat. We're trying on this third common mistake to stay through that ball and get the extra extension through that baseball. So what we're gonna do for this third drill is we're gonna have 2 baseballs. We're gonna have a baseball on the tee, and we're gonna have another baseball about a foot in front of this. What the point of this drill is again, we're trying to get that extension, and we're now gonna try to extend through that second baseball. So instead of us just thinking about hitting that first baseball, we now have a second part of hitting. It's hitting through that second baseball. What you guys are gonna see is if we stay with this approach, even in games, regardless of having that second baseball, you're gonna notice how much harder you actually start hitting the ball and how much more pure that baseball is once we get to that point, okay? All right guys, so we're on a common mistake number 4. Common mistake number 4 is hitting the baseball off the end of the bat. This is a common thing that I see a lot of little leaguers and pony guys, as well as high school kids. When they get to that baseball, they're getting to it and it's at the end of a bat. What happens is a lot of times when they do that, the most common thing that happens is that sting. Players hit it, start shaking their hands. How do we prevent that? So we prevent that by getting to the baseball and having posture. You're gonna hear us talk about this a lot on this channel. What I mean by posture is by the time we get to the baseball, we're in an athletic position and our shoulders are over our toes. We're getting to that baseball and we're staying through the baseball. Why we stand up is because, again, like we talked about earlier in that video, our hands roll over too early and it's forcing us back, and by the time that happens, we're hitting it off the end of that bat. We have to focus on that posture about getting to that ball, getting extension. If we get to that baseball by having our shoulders over our toes, we're no longer hitting it on that off the end of the bat, but we're hitting it on that barrel. Okay, so for this drill, we're gonna be spread out, athletic position like we talked about earlier. I want a good wide base. What I want us to focus on is I want us to be in our toes. What I mean by that is I want us being on our toes and not on our heels. A lot of times you see these kids at these ages, when they go to hit, their body ends up in this position because they're not staying on their toes. Like I talked about earlier, we want to be on our toes so we can get those shoulders over our toes. So what we're going to do in this drill is we're going to start up nice and flat. We're going to work our way down into getting into this posture, and once we feel our weight transition into our quad area, we're going to swing and we're going to try to stay through that ball. So what I mean by that is we're going to start up nice and tall, good athletic base, and from here we're going to slowly work down till we get our shoulders over our toes, and once we get into this position, now we're working on staying through that baseball and exploding through that baseball. on to the last common mistake number 5. Common mistake number 5 is not clearing our hips. What I mean by that is when we're getting to our contact point, a lot of hitters, this front foot is firm into the ground and that back foot never moves. So by the time they're hitting, they're swinging and that back foot never turns. If that back foot never turns, that means we're not clearing our hips. What we need is that back foot to rotate. As soon as that back foot rotates, it opens our hips. If our hips open and we're able to get our hips all the way around and open, that means that our bat is gonna speed up. If we're speeding those hands up and that bat up, that means we're gonna have extra velocity coming off that bat, a better velo, and we're gonna hit the ball further and harder. So for this last common mistake for this drill, we're gonna be referencing how to improve bat speed video. If you guys wanna go check that out, we'll have a link above. In that video, we talk about clearing our hips and we talk about going through an at bat with you not using our hips versus using our hips. So in this drill, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get to a point where we're gonna hit the baseball and we're gonna go one where we don't twist and rotate that back foot. I really want you guys to feel what the difference is between using that back foot and clearing those hips and when we don't. So in that second one, after we don't swing and use that back foot, we're gonna now on this second one, we're gonna take a full swing, we're gonna rotate that back foot, and we're gonna clear these hips. We're gonna get all the way through and we're gonna finish, and you guys are gonna feel the difference versus not using that back foot versus when we do use that back foot. Hope you guys got something out of the 5 common hitting mistakes that me and Coach Matt see every single day when it comes to little leaguers all the way up to high school players, collegiate players, or even professional baseball players. If you guys did, please let us know in the comment section below. We're going to be putting videos out every Tuesday. Please hit that subscribe button. Have a good day.